Hi, my name is Lindsey, and I'd like to talk to you about visual narrative. Visual narratives are stories conveyed through the visual medium, such as images. Specifically, I'd like to talk to you about static visual narrative. Static, of course, meaning still. So, individual still images, like the still images making up this scene of Alice going down the rabbit hole. No. The still frames that make up a film do all the work for the viewer. The passage of time, for example, is clearly laid out through the motion of the characters, objects, and scene transitions. The sounds and music communicate the emotion, and the dialogue communicates what characters are thinking. Now, it can be argued that these are also often communicated in a static way in films, through the appearance of places and people. A character starting clean-shaven and then given a beard shows the passage of time, irrespective of the motion of the film. And that is correct. But that is a quality of static visual narrative, borrowed by the motion picture. So, if motion pictures are so good at showing time, emotion, thoughts, and other things so well, and they make use of many of the qualities of static visual narrative, they are clearly superior, right? Wrong. One of the things that makes visual narrative or any visual design interesting is the role of the viewer. Ernest Hemingway gives a good example, in literary form. He famously wrote what is often called flash fiction, or a micro-story. It was only 6 words long, and it read, "For sale. Baby shoes. Never worn." Hemingway could have written a proper, detailed short story, say 7,000 words, about a mother who had lost her baby. But by only providing that little information, the reader is able to go on their own personal journey, in their mind, given only a few signposts to go by. An experience is created in the mind of the reader, instead of simply feeding the reader the narrative. In much the same way, static narratives involve the viewer, giving them a role, allowing them to create the missing pieces in their mind. So, if static visual narratives are so good at what they do, why don't we see them more often? We do. They are deceivingly prolific in our culture and permeate many demographics and many genres. I couldn't possibly cover all of them in this video, but let's look at one very popular one. The comic book. The modern age of comic books are what we are most familiar with: Spider-Man, Batman, and so on. Many of us are familiar with the Bronze Age, spanning the decade of the 1970s, which is where many of our current comic books find their roots. But you may not know that comics date back through a silver, gold, and even platinum age, dating back well over a century. The Adventures of Mr. Obadiah Oldbuck is considered by many the first comic book ever written. It was printed in 1842 and tells the story of a man attempting to court a young woman. He is rejected, becomes desperate, tries to kill himself, duels a rival suitor, and by the end, okay, no spoilers. Even in its unrefined form, this static narrative succeeds at showing enough information to convey a story, but allows the reader the freedom to imagine sounds, dialogue, smells, the warmth of the candle, and so on. So, in conclusion, static visual narrative is the use of images to illustrate a story. Its success is in the careful balance between providing enough information for the reader to identify the people, places, and events, and leaving out enough that the viewer can create the world in their mind. Sometimes, all you need are a pair of shoes.